And welcome to the National Hockey Now NHL Trade Deadline Frenzy. I'm Jimmy Murphy of Boston Hockey Now here. We got lots going on. Well, probably not as much as we would like, right? Because we've had so many trades leading into the deadline today around the NHL. It's been a crazy week, I'll tell you that. I'm thinking maybe they should just call it NHL Trade Deadline Week after what we've seen now. Actually, I got an idea about that I'll talk to you about later. Maybe run it by some of our guests. But we've got a great little show here. Figured we'd just get together, invite the fans to come on in. Please put your comments in there, ask some questions, talk about some of the trades here that are going on or that already have happened. Of course, the team I cover, the Boston Bruins, has been very busy. Acquired Tyler Bertuzzi from the Detroit Red Wings yesterday after placing Nick Foligno and Taylor Hall on injured reserve. Almost lost Brad Marchand, but as we just found out from Jim Montgomery today on the Toucher and Rich radio show here in Boston, Marchand is now expected to play tomorrow afternoon against the New York Rangers, despite suffering a lower body injury that knocked him out of the second period of the Bruins' 7-1 win over the Buffalo Sabres on Thursday night. It looks like he'll be good to go. Then again, and no offense to Jim Montgomery, but his injury prognosis have not been that great as of late. There's been a couple times where he said, yeah, we expect the guy to be in there, next game and he'll be fine. And then, look what happened with Taylor Hall. So let's keep our fingers crossed that Monty's right, Bruins fans, and hopefully you see Brad Marchand in the lineup tomorrow. But listen, we got a great lineup here for you. We're going to bring on my colleague at Boston Hockey Now, hopefully in a few. I know he's over at Bruins practice right now. Joe Haggerty will join us soon, I hope, from Warrior Arena here in Boston to talk some Bruins, see what's going on with them. Doesn't sound like they're going to do much today. It looks like they're probably done. I mean, you never know with that. Like, nothing would surprise me after what we've seen across the NHL and some of the deals we've seen go down. So wouldn't surprise me if the Bruins do anything. But as of now, word straight from the horse's mouth, Don Sweeney yesterday, is that he is done. And Hags has a great column actually about Don Sweeney up there, just crushing another NHL trade deadline. I mean, look, you can say what you want about Don Sweeney and his drafting and maybe some of his free agent signings, but the man is Trader Don. I mean, he knows how to fleece people at an NHL trade deadline or any time during the season when he's allowed to trade. He's been so successful with his trades. You think back a year ago, well, it's just over a year ago now. I was actually up in Montreal doing a live stream like this with Hags, and news broke as we were doing it that the Bruins had acquired Hampus Lindholm, who, by the way, I mean, I know Charlie McAvoy is the guy you look at. He's clearly the number one guy in Boston, and he's the guy that's going to get the most Norris Trophy consideration. But if you think about what Hampus Lindholm did while Charlie McAvoy was out for the first month plus of the season, I mean, without him, the Bruins are not breaking history, making history every single night. They're not the fastest team to 100 points in NHL history. They're not, breaking this record and breaking that record and just steaming ahead to the top of the NHL standings without Hampus Lindholm. He has been now, of course, you're going to say Mark, and that goes without saying. But on the blue line, Hampus Lindholm has been an absolute X factor. It's insanity. Where would they be without him right now? Somebody was arguing with me on Twitter the other day, saying, they would have done all this even if they had McAvoy and Lindholm out of the lineup for the first month plus. Well, that person obviously does some really good drugs, because that's just not true. It is not possible. Hampus Lindholm stood up, and that's another great trade by Don Sweeney. But let's fast forward to this year. You've got another defenseman that Don Sweeney acquired just a week ago, about 8 days now, from the Washington Capitals, Dmitry Orlov. He's got 7 points, 3 goals, and 4 assists. 7 points in his first, 4 games with the Boston Bruins here, or 5 games. It's insanity. 4 games. It's insanity how well he's just fit into the lineup there. And of course, up front, Garnet Hathaway's just fits seamlessly in. He's going to be a great grinder for the bottom 6 there. You got to give Sweeney credit. And then when he finds out that he's going to be without Nick Foligno and Taylor Hall for an extended period of time, maybe even until the Stanley Cup playoffs, we're going to get to that Taylor Hall injury later, though, because it's very interesting and precarious. but we'll talk about that later with Hags and some other people that we have on the show. But once he finds out about that, Sweeney pivots and he goes out and he gets Tyler Bertuzzi from the Detroit Red Wings. Now, he has no draft picks for like the next decade, but clearly he's all in right now. They want to win one for Patrice Bergeron. They want to win one for David Krejci. So Sweeney's doing what he's got to do to make that happen. And so far, so good. But let me give you the guest rundown here that we got going on. Like I said, hopefully we get Hags here. I got a weird feeling. No, he's tied up at practice. I hope we can get him. So we got Hags supposed to come on any minute here. Then we got Dan Kingerski, of course, runs National Hockey Now here. And, of course, is the Pittsburgh Penguins lead reporter and columnist for Pittsburgh Hockey Now. He'll be joining us to talk about the Penguins, who, oh, by the way, made a nice little deal today. The Penguins, of course, earlier. Actually, it happened overnight. Didn't go through, though, until about 9:15 this morning. The Penguins reacquire Nick Bonanino, if you remember that call back in the 2016-2017 playoffs. They reacquire him from the San Jose Sharks for a 2023 7th-round pick and a 2023 5th-round pick. Mike Greer continues to ship out bodies for picks there in San Jose. But I like that pickup. I was actually texting with some NHL execs, and we're kind of going back and forth. And I said, I think Bonino ends up with the Penguins, and then boom, there he goes. He's to the Penguins. So we'll talk to Dan about that move, and of course about a really questionable move that had Ron Hextall under siege from the Pittsburgh media and the Penguins fans earlier in the week. Just made no sense. So we'll get into that with Dan Kingerski. And then we're going to bring on my good friend, Stefen Rosner. Now, Stefen is our writer for NYI Hockey Now, New York Islanders Hockey Now. He does a great job there. And let me just put this out there too, okay? And I tweeted about this, and it's something that's been getting under my skin. I'm going to just throw it out there right now because, this is a time when everybody's trying to break a trade. Everybody's trying to get the scoop. Everybody is just trying to be first to the story there. Well, guess what? Stefen, who's very new to the scene here, just starting off his career, he nailed it on Patrick Kane. He had Patrick Kane to the Rangers, making it official before anyone out there, okay? Before all the big shots, whether it's Pierre LeBrun, Darren Dreger, Elliot Friedman, Dave Pagnotta, who, by the way, has kind of been stealing Stefen's stuff and reporting as if it was his own, and that's what's irking me right now. Is there's a lot of that going on around the NHL right now. It's kind of the wild, wild west where nobody gives anybody any more credit, and they just throw it out there as if it's their own. So Stefen nailed that, and I want to give him credit for that, and we will when he comes on. He's going to talk about Patrick Kane to the Rangers there. We'll talk a little New York Rangers, who, by the way, are in Boston to play the Boston Bruins tomorrow afternoon at TD Garden. That's the ABC national game. That should be a good one. Could be a preview of the Eastern Conference final. So we'll get Stefen Rosner on to talk about them and, of course, about the Islanders. Not sure they'll do anything here. They made their huge move. Man, it seems like many moons ago, right at the end of January 31st to be exact, when they acquired Bo Horvat from the Vancouver Canucks. And then, of course, they've got Pierre Engvall earlier in the week from the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we'll talk a bit about the Islanders, the Rangers, maybe even some Devils there. It would go around the New York metro area because Stefen's familiar with all those teams. Then after that, really honored and psyched to bring on my good friend, Bruins fans, you know him well. Devils fans, you know him, but of course you didn't like him too much. Things didn't go too well there, but but what can you say about this guest? Mark Recchi, Hall of Famer. All right, former NHLer. He's going to be joining me to just talk about his take on the NHL trade deadline and all the trades that have gone down, what he thinks might still happen before the 3 p.m. deadline. Rex is always fun to talk to. He's always well dialed in. He knows so many GMs, so many scouts, so many coaches, obviously so many former players. So he's got his hand on the pulse of what's going on behind the scenes. We'll talk to Mark Recchi there. And then we're going to kind of switch gears and bring in the gambling aspect of the NHL trade deadline. How will all the trades that have gone down or will go down by the 3 p.m. deadline, how will they affect the rest of the season as a hockey handicapper? How should you bet teams now with their changes that they've made leading into and at the NHL trade deadline? What teams are better to bet on? What ones do you stay away from now? We'll get into all the nitty-gritty details of hockey handicapping with my good friend and former colleague who I used to host the Ice Guys with, and he's still on it with Ian Cameron, and that's Alex B. Smith. He will join me to close the show off, and we'll talk about the impact of the trade deadline on hockey betting, which is a big thing right now. So we got a full show here. I want to invite you guys, throw it out. Thank you for the correction there, Jared. 3 goals, 5 assists, even better than what I said. It's amazing what Dmitry Orlov has done there. And again, I want to invite you, just like Jared did, comment, tell me how crazy I am, how dumb I am, whatever. I don't really care. Or throw me questions here that you want me to answer or ask our guests as we go on here. But before we go on in the podcast here, we got a new little sponsor that's going to be doing some work with Boston Hockey Now. And we're psyched to have them on. It's Gramco, who, by the way, speaking of Alex B. Smith, he put me in touch with them, and we're forming a little partnership with them. And let me tell you about Gramco right now. Whether your game is on the gridiron, court, diamond, or on the ice, Gramco is for the game. If you are looking for high-quality cannabis shipped quickly and discreetly to your door, this is the company for you. Gramco is an absolute leader in the field of cannabis. They grow their own hemp with their parent company, Greenpoint, that's been in business for over 5 years, which in this industry is an eternity. No medical card is needed. You can go out. It's a recreational company, so you can go out and order from them, no problem. With Delta 8 flower, vapes, gummies, wake and bake coffee, quick mix powder that allows you to infuse anything, CBD products, and so much more, Gramco offers you a legal option to live well and get elevated, and also discreet packaging and shipping. So right now, if you go there and you use the promo code Murphy's Law, you can get 20% off your order and free standard shipping with all orders over $50. Again, use the promo code Murphy's Law to get 20% off your order and free standard shipping with all orders over $50. Go to Gramco right now and thank me later. So back to the show here. There's Alex chiming in, the Gramco gang. That's right. Spreading the joy here. And I'll tell you guys, look, personally, I've been suffering from insomnia forever. But then in the last year, I suffered a major concussion and have been dealing with post-concussion syndrome. And it's been tough. Now I know how these hockey players feel. I don't know how they go out and play and still do it, because I think about the days when we weren't really aware of concussions and what it does and the effect it can have on you. And of course, all the stuff it's done, the horrible things that have happened to players after their careers are over because of concussions and post-concussion syndrome. It's brutal, man. And I have been lucky enough to find, people that introduced me to CBD and now to cannabis to use, in a medicinal purpose instead of the pills and stuff that doctors throw at you. Enough of that. That goes down a bad road. I can vouch for you right now. Gramco works, and it has helped me for sure. Alex introduced me to it about 2 months ago, and it has helped my insomnia a lot, and it's helped my post-concussion syndrome. So I urge you guys to definitely go to Gramco and use that promo, Murphy's Law. So back to the trade deadline. Let's look what else we got going on right now, guys. Let's just go down the deals we've seen. All right. So let's scroll way back. Let's go back. I'm thinking, wow. I'm looking at the track right now, guys. Just all the stuff that's happened. All the trades that have happened before the trade deadline. I don't think we've seen anything like it. And, I had an interesting conversation with an NHL executive, gave me a story idea, and I am going to use it and write about it soon on the National Hockey Now network. Just why we're seeing so many of these high caliber players being moved out just for picks and not bodies. It's interesting. Some really interesting stuff there. And I'll just tell you this. A lot of it has to do with the fact, like, I keep hearing reporters say, oh, well, this team can do that because the salary cap's going to go up soon. Or we can, people were talking about David Pastrnak, who signed that 8-year, $90 million contract yesterday, saying, oh, well, it's no big deal. That 11.25 cap hit won't be a big deal in a few years because the cap's going to go up. Well, I got news for you. No, it's not going up as soon or as much as you think. It's going to, there's Hags texting me now. We'll get him in. It's going to go up probably a little over the next 2-3 years, but not what people are calculating. It's just not happening. And teams know that right now. Owners know that, and GMs know that. So get ready. You're going to see this more and more. We have these crazy deals leading into the trade deadline, and we see really high caliber players and lots of bodies switching teams as we go in there. Let me just send a link over here to my man Hags here, get him on the show. So it's interesting. There's a lot going on behind the scenes where you're going to find out soon that the salary cap is not going up as much as many people are projecting it to. It's just, I don't know why that mantra or whatever you want to call it, that theme is out there still, because it's not true. It's not good. The prognosis is not good. I know that it's hard for fans out there to understand that multi-billionaire owners suffered major losses during COVID, but they did. And we're literally, this is our first clean season out of COVID, right? So teams are still recovering. A lot of these owners, like Jeremy Jacobs, for example, the Bruins, they make a lot of their money, if not more of their money, in other business fields. Jacobs is huge in the concessions and hotels, hospitality. That's probably the industry that took the biggest hit during COVID. So they're trying to recoup a lot of losses right now. And a lot of them are giving mandates to their GMs, get rid of these salaries. I don't care if we win or not. You got to dump these salaries. So we're going to continue to see what we just saw over the last 10 days. We're going to continue to see it. I'd say in the next 1 to 2 years, in the next 1 to 2 NHL trade deadlines. I don't think until 2025 do we really see a noticeable rise in the salary cap. So we got Hags coming on soon. Let me see what we got here, guys. No questions there. One other thing I want to say too, and Hags wrote about this too, back to Don Sweeney too. Look, I get that a lot of I'm not trying to disregard the future and draft picks and how important drafting is. It clearly is. All right. And specifically what we were just talking about in salary cap era, drafting is primary. You need to draft well to build a competitive team and stay competitive. You just do. Okay. But there's some situations where, you've got a situation like the Boston Bruins right now. All right. They're at the end of that competitive era. And somehow they've been able to do it without that many great draft picks. They've been able to do it because Don Sweeney just knows how to trade. And they've made some nice signings. So right now you got all these picks are being shipped out by the Bruins. They're all in. They made that very clear. Damn the future. Okay. Right now, the future doesn't matter. It's all about the now of the Boston Bruins. And all these Bruins fans right now are gung-ho. Yeah, let's go. But if they don't win the Stanley Cup, I can guarantee those same fans are like, oh, now we don't have any picks. And what do we do? And oh, Don Sweeney sucks and all this. Don't do that. All right. You're either all in right now with the Bruins or you're not. You can't be all in now, but not all in later when they don't have those picks. So just throwing that out there. We'll talk with Hags about this right now. We're bringing him on. Joe Haggerty of Boston Hockey Now joining me right here. Hags, how you doing, buddy?
What's up, Marv?
Not much, my friend. Not much. You just getting back from practice?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you were over there. Hags, let's get right into it. I was just talking about the fact that clearly the Boston Bruins are all in. Damn the future. They have hardly any picks left in the cupboards. But There's sometimes like they're in right now where they want to close that window out with a Stanley Cup, where you just got to do that. And I wonder if all the fans who right now are praising Don Sweeney, all the media praising him right now, if they don't win that Stanley Cup, how many of those same fans and media do you think are going to be bashing him for moving all those picks?
Well, I mean, there'll be criticism, but I don't think they'll be bashing him. You kind of have to go for it when you think Patrice Bergeron's probably in his last year and you're trying to win one for him as he goes out, as a Hall of Fame player and one of the best players in the history of your franchise and a great captain. So, when Recchi and Bergeron came back for this year with the team that they had, especially when they got off to the start that they did and the success that they've had, they made the determination. I think they had the determination even before the season started, but I think it was even more of a surety once they saw how the team played that they have to do everything they can to get every piece they can available to make this roster playoff tested and playoff ready, make it deep enough to withstand injuries and give the organization a team that could withstand the rigors of a 2-month gauntlet to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. And in years past, especially when you rely on older guys like Krejci and Bergeron to carry a lot of the load, you're going to need a lot of other players to be able to shoulder a heavy burden in order to get by and to have success. And, that's what we're seeing.
Is that Luch?
Could be.
Speaking of Luch, let's talk about that a little. His wife went on a little campaign to get him back to Boston over the past week. Was very active on social media. Was texting some people I know that are friends with him and her. We want to come back to Boston, but
she was texting me too.
Yeah, I mean it's not going to happen. And Bruins fans are still asking me, "Oh, I'm hearing this. I'm hearing he's coming back." Let's make it clear, Bruins fans, that dream ain't happening, right?
Well, no, I think once they traded for Tyler Bertuzzi, I think that was the messages I got from her were before that happened, the day or two before that happened.
Yeah.
I think there was a sense among the Bruins players. They all had dinner with him when they were out in Calgary. And I think there was a sense there that the Bruins were making another move because of the injuries, the injury to Taylor Hall. So I think they kind of knew something was coming and they were trying to, do everything they could to see if it could be Lucic instead of Tyler Bertuzzi. Now, Lucic is making what? Like almost twice as much as Bertuzzi, right? So the salary cap gymnastics would have been even more difficult to get him to go back to Boston. But I would have loved to have seen it happen. I told Brittany that when she was messaging me, I think everybody would love to see Luch back in black and gold, especially, for this one last run with his boys that he won the Stanley Cup with in 2011. And because he can still play. He's still a physical force. He's still a feared forward in that league. Every once in a while, he can put the puck in the net. And, he would have made them tougher to play against as well, just like Bertuzzi is going to do. So, I understood the reasoning behind it. And I feel bad that they can't bring him back and bring everybody back that would want to come back and be a part of it. But as soon as I saw the Bertuzzi thing go down, I kind of knew, all right, that was the one thing that the Lucics were hoping for. He would be that guy instead of Bertuzzi, but Bertuzzi's younger and he's cheaper. And I think that those are the two biggest things, reasons why it ended up happening with Detroit.
Well, the other two, that's a good point you just brought up there. And good segue. Great minds think alike. The age factor there too. You got a guy in Bertuzzi versus Lucic where I think the Bruins acquire him with it in the back of the mind that maybe they can extend him and maybe they can keep him here past this year. He's a UFA just like Lucic, but
yeah, maybe.
Are you going to keep an older Lucic? Probably not. Are you going to keep a younger Bertuzzi? Yeah, I think there's a chance there so that he could factor in the future as well.
Maybe. I mean, I think there's a better chance a guy like Garnet Hathaway ends up sticking around with the Bruins than Tyler Bertuzzi. We'll see. But he's having a down year this year. He's been injured. He's only got 4 goals. So the price has definitely come down on signing him from where it would have been a year ago when he was a 30-goal scorer. And I think he had 60 points. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like most of the time Don Sweeney figures that into the calculations when he trades for a UFA and a rental is that it's a guy that they would, if they ended up extending him, that it would work out for them. He doesn't seem to trade a lot for rentals where it's just like, see you later. Thanks for your 2-month contribution. And, we don't need you back. seems like there's always a little bit of a door open and an interest there because they target and look for players to bring in that are a certain type that they like, and those are the guys they want to keep around. So, yeah, but who knows? Like, right? Has anybody on this Bruins team ever played with Tyler Bertuzzi before? Is there any history there? I don't think so. So,
yeah,
you never know with guys like that until you bring them in and see how they work out in the mix
right.
with everybody else, and then you make that determination. Same with Taylor Hall. He was kind of like sight unknown and sight unseen when he came here, and they had to kind of have a little bit of a trying out process, I think, to see if he was going to fit before they signed him. It could be the same thing with Bertuzzi.
Yeah, this is an audition for sure. And I think with Orlov as well. Man, let's talk about him, Hags. Look, Orlov has got a lot of experience there. The way he's come in, though, I didn't expect, maybe I haven't watched him enough. I didn't expect the offensive punch that he had. I figured he was a good two-way guy, but he's been way more offensive than I expected. And it's been great to watch for Bruins fans.
Yeah. Bobby Orlov. Absolutely. He's got a big shot. I think we heard and seen that reputation. Of course, Washington has other offensive defensemen that I think have been featured over him on the power play, and that's a big part of, maybe why we didn't see as much offense as he has. But, like, we're also talking about a guy I think that had 12 goals last year and, was 30, 40 points, and has had double-digit goals at least once or twice. So you got to have a pretty good shot as a defenseman if you're going to get into that range at the NHL level. And, we've seen it with the one-timer. And I just think, more than the offense, it's the whole package with him. It's, he's a legit top 4 NHL defenseman that when you slide him into a big 3 with Hampus Lindholm and Charlie McAvoy and then Orlov as the third guy, that becomes a back end that nobody can match that they're going to play as far as quality goes at the top. Mm-hmm. You're going to have one guy that's a very good NHL caliber defenseman that should be playing every night that's going to be sitting once the playoffs starts when everybody's healthy. With what they're doing with the rotation right now with Grzelcyk and Carlo and Forbort and Clifton, one of those guys is going to be out now because of Orlov when they're healthy. And that speaks to just how damn good that roster is that Don Sweeney has built. Now, extending him after this year, we'll see. Like the salary cap picture is not great for the Bruins right now. They're going to have to move. They're going to have to move a lot of pieces and a lot of money in order to sign these guys and be able to retain them. As it is right now, they have no top 2 centers. They have a bunch of UFAs and RFAs, and they have I think $3 or $4 million to sign everybody. So there's a lot of work that Don Sweeney is going to have to do in order to make any of that happen. But in a perfect world, they'd absolutely love to have him back. And you could see talking to him last night that he is really enjoying hopping onto this train, and Hathaway for that measure too. You could tell talking to both those guys that they were grateful that the Bruins rescued them from Washington, which has turned into a tough situation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is interesting the center position there, but you know what? We'll worry about that later. Joe, let's look at Bertuzzi though. Let's go back to him for a second there. Where do you see him slotting in? I'm thinking on the third line.
Yeah, I would say slots.
Obviously now for the
where
injury,
Taylor Hall was, I think that's where he slots in.
But what about when Hall comes back?
I would suspect that Frederick becomes your fourth line center, and that Bertuzzi could be a third line wing. It could be a fourth line wing. I think it depends on how those guys play together. But obviously he's got the resume to be able to play on the third line. But I think the bigger picture question or the bigger move is that Nosek is probably a guy that gets pushed out of that top 12 forward group when all those guys are together and if they're healthy and Foligno's healthy too.
See, I disagree. Because I think Nosek is one of Montgomery's favorite guys. He like Cassie had a couple guys like that. I think he's just one of his go-to guys. I know the fans don't see the allure in him, but he does a lot of little things that a coach loves. And I don't know if some guy is just going to come in from another team and push him out of the lineup. I just don't.
Yeah, I'm not. It's going to come down, I think, to a choice between Frederick or Nosek, and I think Frederick's a better player. Like at a certain point, when you have all these players in there, somebody's going to get edged out. Maybe it's Greer, and maybe he's already out anyway. But I think when you start to look at everybody being healthy, this is what I'm talking about. Once they're all healthy,
yeah,
maybe he's in there, maybe he's not. But I could see a scenario where Nosek comes out and Frederick becomes the fourth line center.
See, I look at Nosek, though, in terms of trustworthy versus skilled. Yeah, Frederick's way more skilled, but coaches love trustworthy on their fourth line.
And he's
especially
bigger,
in the playoffs.
he's bigger, stronger, tougher, more hard to play against in a playoff scenario. Like, I know what you're saying. I think Nosek does bring some things to the table, but like,
I'm not saying that I would make that decision. I'm just getting in Jim Montgomery's head.
Yeah,
I would go with Frederick. I'm trying to figure out what Jim Montgomery's thinking. That's where I see him going. I'm with you, though. I'd rather Frederick in there for sure. Yep. And I think, too, I wanted them to play him more at center for a while now. And obviously they couldn't because they have Nosek there. But, I mean, the kid is a natural center. And I thought, all things considered, when he's had to go in there, when there's been injuries, when Nosek was out or, however the lineup shook out sometimes where he had to play center, I actually was pretty impressed. Like, I thought you saw him in the games he played center. Every game he played at the center position, I thought he matured that much more. And he really looked comfortable there. Whereas when I threw him there before in previous seasons, a couple times, he was a little shaky. And obviously it's the toughest position as a forward to do for a young kid when you come into league. We've seen high-end centers like a Tyler Seguin, for example, that have coaches will put at the wing because the center position is so hard to get used to and kind of acclimate to. But I think Frederick has gotten to that point where he is acclimated. So, look, I'm with you. I want to see that. I'm just thinking what Jim Montgomery thinks. But, hey, back to Taylor Hall and this injury. I have had, and I don't know about you, Joe, I have had so many fans and fellow media texting me saying, is this a Kucherov? Is this a Kucherov? And I get where they're coming from because the way it went down where Jim Montgomery was like, it's nothing. He's going to be back. He'll be fine. It's just precautionary. We sent him home. It's not that serious. Right when he said that, though, I said, if it's not that serious, why the hell are you sending him home?
Yeah, no. They were putting up a front.
So were they putting up a front for the seriousness of the injury? Or they putting up a front because
they were putting up a front. They were putting up a front because they knew they had to make a trade at that point to get another guy. And you're not going to put your cards on the table and say you're desperate for a player because the other guy's out for the next 6 weeks.
Okay, so you don't think he's healthy and they're just doing a Kucherov?
No, I definitely don't think he's healthy. I think he's injured.
All right.
I think, is he like end of the season, like definitely done injured? No. And I think this is what I think. I think whatever injury he had kind of coincided with the end of the season. The timetable was around the end of the season when he might be able to return. So they were in a position where they don't know how healthy he's going to be. They don't know how healthy he's going to be when he comes back. And they know if he's out for the rest of the season that they don't have to worry about the cap. So they're able to go out and get another player. Like, I don't think the Bruins are giving up a first-round pick for Tyler Bertuzzi if Taylor Hall's healthy and fine. I don't think they're creating a situation where they're giving up a first-round pick for a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi. I think they'd rather have a healthy Taylor Hall and not have to give out in the next year's first-round pick to bring in a guy like that,
Yeah. Thank you for crushing the myth. Because I'm telling you, I can't count how many people they're pulling a Kucherov. I know it. That's what's going on.
Do you think any NHL player is going to agree to sit for 6 weeks if they're healthy? No. Do you think Taylor Hall's ever going to do that?
Yeah.
No way.
I know. And it sucks that happened with Kucherov because it's like, I feel like now every time we get in this situation, that suspicion comes up. You know what I mean? Yep. It's like you're going to always hear it. Oh, are they doing this just to get cap space? And it's like, man, let it go. Like they did it. That's it. And specifically with the way the NHL is definitely paying attention to that right now. I don't think that the Bruins are going to try that or any other team will.
Yep.
So what's your take overall looking at this team? I mean, look, yeah, they're awesome. Yeah, they're making history every night. Yeah, they're the odds-on Stanley Cup favorites. But is there a but?
Yeah, the but is they have to win. That's it.
Okay. Do you think there's a chance that they could be upset in the first round?
Of course there is. There is for any team. That's what makes the playoffs great. Like, yeah.
See, I'm with you. I mean, everyone thinks it's a given. And I'll tell you one thing, too. I think it's a long shot. I don't think they're going to make it. But if they did, I would not want to play the Ottawa Senators if I was the Boston Bruins. Because the Senators, out of any of those sort of bubble teams the Senators have played the Bruins the toughest. Those have been good. That last game they played, even though the Bruins won, that was a playoff style game. I mean, that was a tough win for the Bruins. That it was a President's Day, right? The matinee. That was a tough win. And that's what I think you could expect from a team like the Senators. And they could catch a team that's thinking way ahead. But I think the Bruins are just so well trained by Bergeron and Krejci and just that veteran core to not think ahead. But still, I think if there was any team that could do it, it would be the Senators, but we might not even have to worry about that.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree. I think any matchup for them is going to be tough in the first round.
Yeah. Looking around the league, what else has stood out to you heading into this deadline?
Just a lot of moves, just every team's getting their roster together and going for it and giving up a lot of assets. And, teams have figured out a way to move around salary cap money. So just a very active deadline. Yeah,
I look at the East too, Joe, and you look at all the contenders. I mean, basically, if you're going to list, let's say your top 10 contenders heading into the playoffs, right? I'd say 6 or 7 are in the East. So my question is, the team that makes it out of the West, will they have an advantage in terms of how worn down they're not compared to the team coming out of East, because the East has had to go through the gauntlet so much more?
Yeah, definitely could. I mean, I think that could be a realistic scenario for sure. I think the East is going to be a throwdown, no doubt.
Yeah. If you had to predict right now, give me your final 4.
Bruins, Carolina, Vegas, and
Colorado.
Yeah, probably Colorado. Yep.
Yeah. I'll tell you something, though. Vegas ends up against the LA Kings. Jonathan Quick gets in between those pipes. That would be something.
For sure.
That'd be fun to watch. Well, listen, Joe, I know you're busy. I'll let you go. Thanks for joining us, my friend. I'll see you probably later today at Don Sweeney's presser.
All right. Sounds good, Murph. See
Whatever time that may be.
Oh, it'll be good.
All right. Cheers, brother.
Take it easy.
That's Joe Haggerty from Boston Hockey Now joining me. Look, I'm with them when we were talking about the Frederick. I'd rather see Frederick in there. I'm just telling you guys, Jim Montgomery is in love with Thomas Nosek. So don't be surprised if he's in there when you think Frederick should be in there. It's just the way I feel. But look, we got more guys coming on. Going to join us soon. I am going to call up my man. We're going to see if Dan Kingerski's ready to go. Let's get him in now. And I want to also tell you guys a little interesting scoop I just got. So here's what I'm going to tell you right now. Keep an eye, and I haven't even looked at the trade tracker since Joe came on. Keep an eye on the Vegas Golden Knights right now. That's all I got. Somebody just sent me a text in Vegas and said, look out with the little eyes emoji. We'll see what happens. They're up to something. I know that. I don't know if it's going to happen, but they are up to something apparently big. So keep an eye on that. We talked about Milan Lucic there. So we've ruled it out. Obviously, he's not going to the Bruins. But what other teams make sense for Milan Lucic? You look around, right? Like we just said, there's been an arms race in the Eastern Conference with all these teams just going tit for tat. Look at boom. Okay, you're going to make a deal. We'll make a deal. You're going to make a deal. We'll make a deal. And it's been one after another, and the dominoes just keep falling. I wonder, are they done? Is that arms race in the East done? I don't think so. And I look at a team, all right, and they've got somebody who watched a lot of Milan Lucic as their GM. Tom Fitzgerald used to work with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And back in the day when Lucic was in his heyday here, the 2011 team, the 2013, the 2014 team, back when he was in his heyday here, Tom Fitzgerald was still based. He's a Boston guy, was based here in Boston, would watch all the Bruins games. I would sit and talk to him a lot in the press box. He always loved Lucic. That's a team. I know they already went out and got Timo Meier. All right. But they've still got some space. They want to add more playoff experience. They want to add more grit. Wouldn't he be a good fit for the New Jersey Devils? We'll ask Mark Recchi, who is the former New Jersey Devils assistant coach, knows these players a lot, knows Tommy Fitz a lot, knows him real well. We'll ask him about that when he joins us. But right now, we're being joined by Dan Kingerski, Pittsburgh Hockey Now. And I believe, I don't know where he is, somewhere in the Sunshine State. Dan, how you doing?
I am. I'm actually fine now. I should tell you the rental car story.
I would love to hear it.
I don't think we have enough time. 3 hours. Okay. Fort Lauderdale is insane. They bus you to a rental car counter. So I call Amex and I say, hey, I need a car. Amex says, great. You've got a car. Here's a good price. I say, great. I get to the rental car counter. They bus me to a second location, like out in the city. We show up at this place. There's 5 people on the bus. Some poor hipster who hasn't showered in 3 days, got a straw hat and a paper mask. I appreciate the mask effort. I'm triple vaxxed. They don't work. It's over with. You can take the mask off unless you've got really bad teeth. I get you. So we're in line. They've got one person there for an entire van full of people. First sign of trouble, right? Or second sign of trouble. Then they start adding all these fees onto the first people in line. Oh, you have to pay for gas up front. No, I'll put gas in the car. I'm like, no, you can't do that. You also have to buy the insurance. And the rest of us in line look at each other. We turn around en masse and walk out back into this van and tell the driver to take us back.
Oh,
so I'm on the phone yelling to Amex. But in the end, actually, can I show you the car that I got? Anyway, they gave me a
Did you post it on Twitter?
Yeah, I did. They gave me a Hemi Dodge Challenger. Amex felt so bad for the experience.
Wow.
It's all blacked out. So I was cruising Florida for a minute, like a badass that I'm not.
Oh yeah, there we go. I'm looking at it. Look at you, man, cruising down the strip.
Something like that.
You got and now
that was 3 hours of my life.
Were draft picks involved in this transaction or no?
Player to be named later and a firstborn.
All right. Speaking of draft picks and the trade deadline, Dan, look, I think you and I had texted a little. I know I had texted with some other people about it. Kind of had a feeling maybe the Pittsburgh Penguins would be interested in Nick Bonino again and bringing him back. Yeah. You surprised? You expected this? What's your take on that trade?
It's actually one that I advocated for both about 3-4 weeks ago. I put Bonino on my list of kind of long shot third line centers. I'm like, he's not really a third line center anymore, but if they're really stuck, here's an option. Then this morning, before anything was announced, my 5:30 opening salvo, I said, here's a couple of players to watch today who really make sense. And Bonino was number one. So I think it's a really good pickup for the Penguins. He fits the need because they're short one center now. You from being close to the Montreal Canadiens, that Ryan Poehling has some talent. He has played really well for the Penguins, but he had a setback in this nagging long running injury he's had going back to early December. So the Penguins have kind of a center in Drew O'Connor, but he's much better on the wing. And, getting Bonino will allow them to kind of settle in that bottom six with naturals, in their position.
Now, let's switch to the other trade they made earlier in the week. We're both not a fan of that. What can you say? Why did that trade happen?
Why? Well, why?
Win the lottery, right?
I guess we'll find out later today. I presume, Hextall is supposed to speak, somewhere is around 4:00. But look, Granlund had a good history with Jason Zucker. Granlund is a setup guy. Jeff Carter is a finish guy. I mean, he can finish, not that he's from Finland, of course. So maybe you put a guy who can really move the puck and do some things with it, put him beside Jeff Carter. who's the center, who's the winger. Neither of them know. I don't think anyone knows, including Coach Mike Sullivan. But last night they were actually, for the first time in a long time, the Penguins' third line was not caved in. They were not on the receiving end of relentless pressure. They actually provided that pressure for the Penguins, and what a difference that makes. So, having seen one game, that's not much of a sample size. It would, it's an expensive upgrade. $5 million for Granlund is a ton, and he signed for 2 more years. So the Penguins gave away their financial flexibility this summer to re-sign some of their UFAs. But after watching 60 minutes, there's a chance it might not suck.
Okay, but that good segue there in the financial aspect of it, and that's where I was going to go next. Do you think because of that, an actual body could move out before 3 p.m. today?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Do you think because of the financial, you brought up the financial aspects of the deal.
Yeah.
Do you think because of that, we could see a body in the roster move out?
I guess they're going to have some ice skating practice here beside me. We're in Florida. This is basically a municipal rink. Anyway, I honestly don't know. I think the Penguins, presuming they can make Bonino work, and Pierre LeBrun, to his credit, tweeted out plausible details. Now, we have been told specifically that the trade is not done for Bonino. I want to caution that. Everyone kind of is like, oh, Friedman put it out there. It's a done deal, but it's not yet a done deal. If they just get Bonino today, I think they can rest, and nothing else has to happen. So could something more happen? Yes. There's still those percolating chatter rumors with Vancouver and whatever else might be out there. But, Hextall, when he locks that door and shuts off the lights, no one else knows what's going on. Yeah,
and that's the truth. Looking around the league, Dan, I want to get your take because we both of us are so busy, obviously. But what's grabbed you? Like, what's been the biggest thing that you were like, what the, about the last 10 days, let's say? Because I don't recall another year where we've seen so many trades and notable trades.
Yeah,
have you leading into the deadline? So, what just made you double take and be like, what the hell just happened?
Well, I think the what the hell, and then it's only gotten worse, is the Tanner Jeannot trade to Tampa Bay. 5 draft picks for him. And quite frankly, he was kind of a non-factor against Pittsburgh last night. I was not overly impressed with him. He's either having a terrible sophomore slump that will be corrected, or B, he had a great rookie. We've seen guys, Jimmy, have that great rookie year and never really follow it up, and they kick around the league for another 5 or 6 years, everyone thinking they can extract whatever it was that made them a great rookie. So that's probably the one that still makes me say, what the hell is Jeannot? Granlund is up there too. Taking on $5 million for this Penguins team was that's going to impact signing Tristan Jarry, their starting goalie. Jason Zucker, who's been one of their 3 or 4 best forwards and a fantastic energy guy to boot. It's going to, affect their ability to replenish their blue line. It's going to lose, Brian Dumoulin from the top pair. Probably lose Brian Dumoulin anyway. So, they really hamstrung themselves with Granlund. And so those are the 2 that make me really say, what the heck?
Yeah, the other one, we knew they were always interested in him, but I kind of just thought maybe that interest had waned, was the Ottawa Senators getting Jacob Chychrun. And they've always been a fan of him. They retired him, but obviously the price was so high. I just find it interesting that they were able to be the team when Armstrong realized, I'm going to get stuck with them. I got to lower the price. I found it very interesting that Ottawa was able to just slide right in there and extract him out of Arizona there. That was an interesting deal to me. And then, you go back to Jeannot. Interesting thing about that. I've listened to a couple of guys. I listen to Jeff Marek, Elliot Friedman every day. And Marek made a great point on the air the other day, and he's made a couple times since, is that sometimes when we look and we're not the team acquiring the player, right, that gives up a lot for them. Sometimes we're not in their eyes, and we like a guy could have an absolute perfect fit for a specific team, so that team's willing to go well and beyond to get that guy. And you look at the Tampa Bay Lightning, what's been their MO through this whole little run of going to the Stanley Cup Finals, winning 2 cups, is getting these unbelievable pain in the ass guys to play against in their bottom 6, right? You look at Goudreau, you look at Blake Coleman, I forget who the other guy was. They got even going back to Pat Maroon, right? They've made it a trademark to go out and get those guys for playoff runs. So he was saying, hey, look, that's why maybe it makes sense for them to give up that much. I'm with you. I still think it was too much. But I think when we see that, we need to take a step back and kind of put ourselves in the shoes of that specific GM.
Jim Rutherford did that on more than one occasion, fixated on a player. Jason Zucker would be, a prime example where he chased him for a year, had a deal the summer prior to acquiring him in February. And that's the one that Phil Kessel vetoed. And I think even Rutherford kind of pulled back in more sober moments and poo-pooed that thinking. Like, we have to be realistic and think, even if we load up and do everything we possibly can, there's still a 1 in 5 chance we win the Stanley Cup. Mm-hmm. Is it worth that? So the flip side to your and Merrick's argument would be maybe sometimes a colder, objective view would serve you too.
Yeah, true. Hey, look at the Bruins right now. I mean, I'm going right down. I'm getting killed right now, but I think you're going to be in agreement with me.
No,
they gave up way too much for Tyler Bertuzzi.
No, that's a great trade all day long. Twice. That is 3 matinees on Sunday. Good. A first round pick. You're going to be picking in the back of the round. The odds that the Bruins.
But it's next year's first round.
Okay, it's next. That's right. It is a 24. Maybe they'll suck next year, but they'll have Bertuzzi and plenty of cap space, right? They'll have some cap space to get a center if when Bergeron walks.
Bertuzzi's a free agent, man. We don't know if they don't know if they're going to have him. I don't know.
A first round pick is the going rate for a guy like that.
Yeah.
In years, and you know what? I guess maybe I'll turn to the emotional argument. This is the win-1 for Patty, right?
Yeah,
Bergeron. This is the win-1 for him here. So, if nothing else, you've added everything you can possibly add. You've plugged every hole for them, and that's a hell of a team. It was already a hell of a team.
Yeah.
You add Bert to that, and it's good. Lord, that's good.
Let's look around the league though. Right now, I look at the LA Kings, Dan, as a team. I'm trying to figure them out. I'm really trying to figure out, are they there yet? You and I have talked about them before. Are they going to make the next step towards becoming a contender again? Do you think they're there right now? Can they get through the first round, or is this still a building team?
All of the above, yes. No, it really is true because, they've got Quentin Byfield. They've kind of found where he fits in their lineup. He's not a third line center. He's, a top line left wing, and he's kind of putting in some good points. And all of a sudden, Anze Kopitar looks 10 years younger with Byfield and that speed beside him. And LA is always rugged. They're always tough, right? And they just didn't have any goaltending this year. I mean, good Lord, they signed Cal Peterson to the monster contract, and he lasts like 2 days before he gets sent to the American League. And Jonathan Quick, God bless him. I understand why he was angry at getting dealt at the end of his career, but he was done. He wasn't stopping pucks.
I agree.
And as much as that takes away the heart out of the LA Kings or makes their captains, their leaders mad, when Korpisalo starts stopping pucks at a much greater rate than any of the 3 goalies they've had, I think all will be forgiven pretty soon. I like the Kings as a playoff team. We'll see who they match up against in round 1, right? That's always
something if it's Vegas and Quick is in net. I mean, that's a story waiting to happen. I'm telling you.
I don't think Quick would be in net.
Well,
obviously,
there'd have to be an injury for sure.
Right.
I mean, there'd have to be an injury. Which
Logan Thompson's been good. Yeah.
which has happened. But
Yeah,
I'll tell you,
I think LA is going to be a tough out. I don't know
Yeah.
that they'd be favored to win any series.
if you were talking about, just the fact that that core of that team was so upset about that, I just say, hey, there's the Herb Brooks effect, right? Make them hate you and take it out on the ice. And maybe that's what's going to happen there with the Kings. They'll be so pissed off to just take it out on the ice. But,
I've also seen it go the other way, too. I'll circle a Penguins trade, actually with the Kings, in fact. When Jim Rutherford was really angry at his team back in 2018, November, they had like 1 win in 11 games. In fact, LA just traded Brendan Lemieux, according to Dave Molinari. But anyway, Rutherford trades Carl Hagelin, immensely popular in that room, to LA for Tanner Pearson. It just pissed the guys off. It didn't make them play any harder. And the Penguins' struggles continued for another probably month or 6 weeks.
Yeah, Zach McEwen going the other way to the Kings there for Lemieux and a 5th-round pick in 2024. Also, former Boston Bruin Curtis Lazar is now a New Jersey Devil for a 4th-round pick in 2024 to the Vancouver Canucks. Those are the most popular trades we have.
I'm just seeing the LA traded Lemieux. Where did he go?
He went to Philly.
Oh, good Lord.
Yep.
That is a perfect pickup for the Flyers, is it not?
Yeah. If they're going,
although it will be funny seeing Lemieux, the name Lemieux, on the back of a Flyers jersey.
Valid point there. Dan, before we let you go, I asked our first guest Hags this, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, but give me your final 4 that we will see in the playoffs.
Final 4. All right. I like Boston. I can't pick against Carolina. They're just so good. I think if they get even a modicum of goaltending in the playoffs, they are better than the Rangers and the Penguins. And they are, I don't think New Jersey is ready for the prime time they're going to face. I think New Jersey's a great regular season team right now, and they're going to have to learn, Jack Hughes is going to get a real good education, come May, when one of those two teams, sends him packing pretty quickly. So that's who I like in the East. I love Colorado in the West. And if I have to pick a second team out there, Dallas has really great goaltending, and Ben and the boys kind of show up in big games, not so much in the other 81 games or 82 games. Vegas, maybe if Jack Eichel flips the switch, right? They could be a dangerous team. But I think in the West, for me, well, there's McDavid too. They just need some damn goaltending in Edmonton.
Yeah, I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. I really am. I thought for sure that would have been the first move that Edmonton made.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know. Ken Holland, I can't question him. He's won plenty of cups, so he's got some kind of recipe.
The last one was a few days away. But, yeah, so I guess I'll put pending matchups, Edmonton and Colorado out in the West. Of course, if those two meet, sooner.
Yep. Should be interesting.
Yeah. I guess I'll go with those two.
Okay. So there we go. I'll mark it down. Well, listen, Dan, get to it. Enjoy the ice skating practice there, and enjoy your car.
Penguins. Wait, where are they? Oh, you can't see the ice dancers behind me. I was going to make a Penguins bottom 6 joke.
Enjoy the car, my friend.
Have fun.
All right. That's Dan Kingerski joining us from Pittsburgh Hockey Now, and, of course, the head of National Hockey Now, joining me here on the NHN Trade Deadline Frenzy. And you know what? Well, we have the time and a little break here. We're supposed to have Stefen Rosner on right now, but Lane Lambert, I guess, is speaking after practice as we speak right now. So Stefen is a bit tied up, so I'm trying to switch gears and get Rex on. We'll see what's going on here. Oh, God, I hate those texts. I don't need those right now on trade deadline day. You ever get those texts where they're like, oh, we have your product you ordered. You don't know who it is. I mean, these total scams really get more and more of those every day. Let me go and remind you of our sponsor for this broadcast. And, of course, that's Gramco. Whether your game is on the gridiron, court, diamond, or the ice, Gramco is for the game. If you are looking for high-quality cannabis shipped quickly and discreetly to your door, this is the company for you. Gramco is an absolute leader in the field. They've grown their own hemp with their parent company, Greenpoint, that's been in business for over 5 years, which in this industry of cannabis is an eternity. No medical card is needed. And this is what's great. And you guys, I don't know how many cannabis fans we have out there right now, but you got to try the Delta 8 flower. And that's what Gramco uses. And I'm telling you, it works. Delta 8 flower, vapes, gummies, wake and bake coffee, quick mix powder that allows you to infuse anything, CBD products, and so much more. Gramco offers you a legal option to live well and get elevated with discreet packaging and shipping. And if you use your promo code right now, Murphy's Law, you will get 20% off your order and free standard shipping with all orders over $50. Go live, get elevated with Gramco. All right, folks. And by the way, the website there too, should have mentioned that, is thegramco.com, www.thegramco.com. So let's get back to this. Some trades coming in now. Lots, man. LA adding Zach McEwen. I mean, I like the grit there, but it's not really anything impactful. He's probably not going to see the ice much in the playoffs. I'll tell you what I like, though. I like that Lazar pickup by the New Jersey Devils. He's a great extra forward to have, much better than a Zach McEwen. You can slot him in at any position. I really enjoyed him when he was here in Boston. Great guy in the locker room. He's a hustler. He's going to give you his all every night, and he goes for a 4th-round pick in 2024 to the Vancouver Canucks. And there's Rex. He's going to be joining us shortly. So, nothing big as we expected. It's been pretty quiet today. Dan was saying the Bonino trade is not official yet. TSN has it as official. Let's see if NHL.com, I imagine that's the one we're going to look at. They do not have it as official yet. So we'll go back with that. I want to look at, though, he brought up the Vegas Golden Knights. And I mentioned to you before, that somebody had texted me to keep an eye on them. I'm still, as Dan was talking there, I don't know if you know, I was a little distracted. I'm trying to track down what the hell that could be. But they are up to something. They're in a win now mode too. I mean, they've been in a win now mode since they entered the damn league, right? But I think they're kind of running out of track space there with their Stanley Cup window. Sooner or later, they're not going to be able to afford everybody, and they're going to have to ship guys out. And as I told you at the top of the show, the cap is not going up like people think. So you're going to see a lot of these teams that are going for it now are going to unload in the coming trade deadlines, whether it's next season or one after. And it's going to be a power shift, I'm telling you, because of this, because people have miscalculated where the salary cap is going. Another thing to mention about that, too, I'm going to write about this probably over the weekend. I'll try and get something up by Monday on Boston Hockey Now and across the National Hockey Now network with my column I do off the record. This Bailey Sports bankruptcy, this is having an effect. I'll tell you, a huge effect on how teams are approaching this trade deadline, how they'll approach free agency, how they'll approach trades at the draft, you name it. It is having a huge effect right now and really putting teams in a financial burden. So keep an eye on that. It's a little tidbit for you to look out for. And when you're looking at deals and you're like, what the hell was that? Why would they trade that guy? That's one of the reasons why. So let me see if we can loop Rex in here, see if he's ready. Sorry, got this Vegas text again. Okay, well, tell me then what the deal is. Sorry, guys. Apologize, multitasking. That's what happens at this time of year. Okay. I'm not allowed to say anything because it might not happen right now. Any news on the Pittsburgh Penguins? Asked DBs87. DBs, you just missed it. We had Dan Kingerski on, was talking about the Penguins. He said, look, it's probably it. They're probably done. So you're looking at Bonino and Granlund and big pickups. We did wonder, though, given their cap implications, whether they're going to have to ship out an actual body on the roster to free up some space. So that could happen, whether it be for picks or what have you, future considerations. There could be a body going out just to clear up space to be cap compliant for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So that's something to watch. So we'll look at that. One sec. By the way, as I was sitting here thinking, while Dan was talking, if I have the time, I'm going to tell you a great trade deadline story where I accidentally broke the news to a former Bruin that he had been traded to the St. Louis Blues back in, I don't know, it might have been 2007, 2008, somewhere around there, maybe even 2006. That's how old I am. But look, we've got Mark Recchi joining us now, Hall of Famer, former New Jersey Devils assistant coach. Rex, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Not bad, man. Not bad.
Good.
As expected, kind of a dull deadline day here, given all the moves we saw heading in, Rex. I'll get right to it off the bat. Just your take on what we've seen, because I don't remember this many big deals heading into the deadline. Why do you think that is? What's been your take on that?
Well, I think there was a lot of sellers and there was a lot of buyers. There's never been this many sellers at this time. A lot of teams made a decision to sell. There's a lot of teams that are trying to get Bedard, so they're going to sell and create cap room and all that stuff. And there's a lot of teams that think they can win, and so there's that just created a lot of action, and it was fun to see. It's they were one team would make a move, another one, and then bang, another team makes a move. So it's pretty neat to see, and I think it's going to make for a heck of a last 20 games here, 15, 20 games, and then I think it's going to be an outstanding playoff run.
How much, I was talking to somebody the other day, Rex, he used to be a NHL GM, and he was telling me, he thinks a lot of this too has to do with the salary cap is not going to go up as much as we think, as originally projected. It's not a good prognosis right now. And B, factoring into that is the whole Bailey situation, Bailey Sports, who's gone bankrupt, and all these teams now that are losing that revenue now have to find a new TV home. And then C, he thinks that because of the losses that some teams felt during COVID, just financial losses. I'm not talking I'm just talking a lot of these guys, a lot of these owners obviously get their main income from other businesses, whether, Jeremy Jacobs, for instance, very big in the hospitality industry and concessions. Yeah. That was probably maybe the most hit industry during COVID, right? He thinks that's all factoring in now, where some teams are maybe getting a mandate to make some players that we wouldn't necessarily thought would be available. And that's why we're seeing a ripple effect.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, it has had a late effect. And like you said, with the salary cap not going up that much either, that has impact on a lot of things. And there's, it did, the COVID did a lot of damage to a lot of people. And, even the wealthy people, they, especially in those industries, they felt it. And, they don't feel it like middle-class people, but at the end of the day, they're businessmen, and that's how they do things. And, it's been quite interesting actually watching it. And, I know that probably got one more year of probably very level cap, and then it'll probably jump after that. So I think teams are kind of preparing for that as well. Some teams, if you look at Washington, you would never expected that. Ehlers has another year. He's a really good player, been a good player for him. Some of the deals they made, you wouldn't have seen that if the cap was going to go up higher next year, and they were able to go out in free agency. So you can see teams building for a couple of years and seeing where it takes them.
Rex, so far, before I want to get into some trade deadline stories from you, but before we do that, you look right now, I'm going to put you right on the spot. Who's been to you, I should say, the trade deadline winner so far in terms of the moves they've made?
Well, I think the Bruins have, and I'm a little biased, but I think what they've done I'm a huge Orlov fan. That was a great pickup. I'm a huge Hathaway fan. Hathaway's a pain in the neck to play against.
Oh yeah.
Really good pickup. And then to go get Bertuzzi, who's a hard guy to play against. He's a physical guy. He plays hard. He plays hard nose, and he fits right into that team that they need. And the depth they've got up front now is pretty good. Toronto, I think, has done a really good job as well. They've added a lot, though. Sometimes it concerns you a little bit when you add that many pieces. I mean,
is it a chemistry?
Yeah, the chemistry. They make it. You're making you're bringing in 5, 6, 7 new guys. It'll be interesting to see how they do. I think they got a great team. I think they made some great moves, and it's something. And you got the smaller deals, but it's Colorado and Tampa. Tampa always makes that one deal that they think is going to help them, and I love that player they got. So there's lots of neat deals, but I think the Bruins overall have done, for me, they've added to already a great team. And who knows what's going to happen with Bergie and Kretsch coming up here. They've tied in Pasta, which is awesome. They've still got some great players, but they went all in and they did the right thing.
Yeah, just quickly too on Bergie there and Kretsch. I know what the answer is to this, but I'll ask you anyways. How surprised are you at what they've been able to do at their age with the mileage on their bodies? And especially Kretsch, too, who took a year off in the NHL to just come back. And it was like he didn't miss a beat. What's been your take on that? Yeah,
it's been awesome to see and fun to watch. I mean, they're such good pros, both of them. I mean, they've been like that since they were young. And, they're just tremendous players. They got, their hockey IQ is off the charts. They see the game well. They play the game the right way, both of them. And, to see them both back playing together is really, really cool. And, I hope they, I don't know if it's their last years or what, but, I hope they get a really good chance to get another cup together.
I hear. Okay, let's get into some stories, Rex. Right off the bat, have you ever been traded on deadline day?
Oh, yeah. Twice. Okay.
Really? With who?
I got traded from my first one was Pittsburgh to Carolina.
Okay.
And second one was the Tampa to the Bruins.
Oh, that was deadline day, right? I was trying to figure that out before I brought you on. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But that wasn't the year, obviously, you won the cup.
No, that was 2009. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's when you guys you lost to Carolina. That's when you had the kidney stones, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember that. That was a 7-game series.
Yeah.
Goddamn Scott Walker. He shouldn't have even been playing after he sucker punched Wardo.
That's
right.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's it like? I mean, when that happens, just as a person, forget the player. What is it like as a person when you're like, oh my God, I got to get up and lift my life up and move?
Yeah. Well, both times I knew it was going to happen. So, at least I was ready for it. Expected it, ready for it. You just don't know where it's going to be. And that's the biggest thing. And then you got family to worry about, you got kids to worry about. And, all that plays into it. You have to talk to them, make sure they're, where this is going to happen. And so it isn't, obviously it is, you're uprooting and you're going away and you're going to a new team. And, but the great thing about, hockey and sports in general is when you're going to a team, everybody welcomes you with open arms and they bring families in, when they would come down and visit. I mean, they're welcome with open arms. They get treated in first class. And so it always helps when you have that, that there, but it's not an easy thing. That's for sure. Especially with when guys have families.
A lot of people ask, what it's like when you step on the ice the first time after being traded with the new team, how nervous you are, how excited, whatever, what emotions are going through you. But this is just my theory. I don't know. You'd be able to tell me, obviously. I almost feel like that's where you want to be in the midst of all that, right? You're just talking about the whirlwind going on around you. The ice is just sort of like your sanctuary, right?
Absolutely. It definitely is. And that's where you feel sane. And that's where, life's good. And well, life's good anyways, but that's where, that's where your comfort zone is, and it's, you get out there and then, you're just with a bunch of new teammates. You're trying to figure it out. You usually have some new structure, that you're trying to figure out. And it's easy, it's an easy adjustment. But like I said, the teammates and the guys who go in the dressing room, it's such an easy adjustment for players and you become instant instant buddies with 20 plus guys and with coaches. So it's nerve wracking. It is, you're nervous, you want to impress, you want to do well, you want to, prove people that they did the right thing by bringing you in. So,
yeah,
there obviously always is, nerves with that.
You look back, I want to go back to that time when you got traded to Carolina. I've actually heard Aaron Ward a couple of times. He goes on the radio every day with my buddy Mitch Melnick in Montreal. Mitch, and he goes on with him every day. And recently he was talking about that. And when they got you, and I think it was Dougie Waite, right, came in. Talk to me about that when you got there, and the first impression you got. Did you get the feel right away that there's something here? This team might go deep.
Yeah, definitely. Dougie had been there for a month already. He got traded a month before me.
Okay.
And they had the injury to Eric Cole, and that's when I think they felt the need to, Eric Cole got hurt, unfortunately, and fortunately for me, they needed a player, and I was the player they targeted, and it obviously worked out great, and, but it's getting moved there. I did feel like when I got there, I just remember how hard the practices were, and the pace they played at. Their pace was unbelievable, and you remember that was the first year that there was a no clutch, the clutching and grabbing. They got rid of
That's right.
And and so I got into practice, and it took me, it took me 15, almost 20 games, and that's what I needed. Thank God I had, because it took me to catch up to that pace, because they practiced at such a pace and they played at such a pace. And, I came from a young team in Pittsburgh, and we just, we were, they were we were still trying to learn things, and young team, and we just didn't quite have that pace. And when I got there, it was like, wow, Jesus Christ, I'm exhausted after practice. Holy, but it's great. And thank God I caught up, and then I was able to help in the playoffs, which was, the important part.
And how about when you got to Boston? What was it feel like then?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was the same thing. You're nervous, you go in, they've got a good team. Just getting in there and just, seeing the group of guys they had, the young, they were a lot younger than Carolina was. So, a lot of the guys, big guys were young, and, it was just fun being part of that, coming in and then just growing together over 2.5 years or 2.25 years, whatever it was pretty special.
Yeah, actually, I remember too when you got there. I forget who the guy was. It's gonna kill me. Defenseman, not Ward. Ward was on that team. It's gonna kill me. But anyhow, I remember just him coming over to me, because you and I had already known each other through Kevin Stevens.
Yeah.
And him coming over to me and trying to get the skinny on you, and I'm like, dude, he's a winner. He's a winner. You're gonna love it. And I remember him coming back to me after a few games, saying, man, this guy's going to be great for us. God, it's going to kill me who it was. Damn it, Rex, I'm getting old, my man.
I feel you.
But anyhow, you're right. I remember, though, that was sort of that beginning of how that core built, right? Mm-hmm. To get to that. And then the next year, too, I remember when you guys blew that lead to Philly, I remember talking to you in the locker room after that, and you just looked at me and said, you know what? We need this. This is what we need to take the next step. Mm. Take me back to that moment when you lost to Philly, and how you knew that it was almost like the medicine that team, that core needed to become the Cup champions a year later.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. You learn from failures, and you grow from failures, and we did it as a group, and we got back to work. It hurt. And I think that's what the guys really, it hurt us. Every guy in that room, they were devastated, and we weren't going to let that happen. We learned some things from it. We got 3-0 against them the next year. We learned some different things. We closed it out we made sure we closed it out. We also learned that we had a big break the year before, the first year against Carolina. We had a big break, and we didn't take advantage of it very well. We kind of lost our focus a little bit, and it took us a while to get going back in that series. And knowing that we buckled down when we got that, we had like an 8, 9, 10 day break, I think it was, in between Philadelphia and Tampa, and we didn't do it right in the Carolina year. Like, I think, we the guys went out and played some golf, and, which is fine, but it kind of tends to take away that focus, and, practice was great, but, we kind of got away, and we said, when we beat Philadelphia that next year going in, we said, we're going to stay focused. We're not going to do anything. There's no golf. There's no, like we're going to play, like we're going to continue like it's going on. There's no break here. Like,
Right.
we're going to work at it, and we're going to stay focused. And we did. And I think that, we had some learning lessons along the way, which was awesome. And, that's what I loved about the group, is they took everything and learned from it and just grew from it. And that's how, special that group was.
Coming back to now, but I'll connect it to that group there. A guy that we've heard a lot of connections. Everybody around Boston has been wanting him to come back. His wife was open on social media the past week, kind of campaigning for it. She's texting me, texting other people around here. Oh, we got to get him back. Milan Lucic, he's out there right now. Do you think the Flames move him before the end of the day today?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know how, money obviously plays a lot in right now with the cap, and I'm not sure exactly what his cap hit is. I know Edmonton's retained some money at some point, and I don't know what his cap hit would be. So that always plays into it right now. Could he help somebody? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Got that edge. He's, since he's been in Calgary, he's really played with an edge. He's played hard. He can make a difference in certain games, and he's still tough as nails. So, he could help somebody. And, if Calgary's selling off, I hope they do give him a chance to win another cup. But, that again, money plays into all that.
Yeah. And that's a good thing too. A good segue there. I mean, Calgary, man, who would have saw this coming, Rex, with the summer they had, the moves they made.
Yeah.
You were just talking before about Toronto and chemistry and making all these different moves, and how sometimes they're doing it on the fly. At least Calgary had an off season to prepare for it. But did you think at this time that Calgary would be looking in from the outside of the playoff race? Yeah,
I definitely didn't see that coming. I thought they were going to be like one of the real tough team to beat and play against. Yeah. And they just haven't found that chemistry. And I think it's been a different world for a couple of the guys they got in, and maybe underachieved a little bit their first year here, and but you hope bigger and better things are coming for them, because they did, they committed a lot, and you hope that they can turn it around, and because they're a good Canadian franchise, and they've done some good things, and it's good for the league if they do well.
You look at it right now, though. If you're Brad Treliving, do you just kind of stand pat, or do you make some sell off some guys? I mean, because you like you just said, they built it up. They were building towards something big to being a contender. I would hope that he doesn't just say, "Oh, screw it, I'm going to blow it up now." Yeah,
well, I think they lost last night, if I recall. I looked at it. They lost last night, which was a real tough loss, I think. Mm-hmm. And it kind of can, I think they're 5 or 6 points out right now, somewhere there. They don't have, and that, that starts to get to be a lot of points, especially when you got, you're going to be playing Edmonton, you're going to be playing Winnipeg, you're going to be playing some of these teams, quite a bit here coming up. They usually play their division, get in their division, and so I it's a tough call. Like, do you go and buy and hopefully it works, or do you just stand pat and just see if this group can get in, and then figure it out in the summer and see what you can do from there? Because they haven't had their goaltending hasn't been as good as it's been in the past. Mm-hmm. Markstrom's had a so-so year, which is a big factor. Last year he was, off the charts good. He's and he is a really good goalie. So it's interesting to see how he rebounds after this year, and if he can get going, because they have good goaltending duel there if they can they can manage to get it going back in the right direction.
I just hope, the owner isn't coming down on Brad right now and being like, "Oh, what the hell? Get rid of these salaries." You hope they don't do that, because I'm with you. I think the best thing right now for a team in that position where you thought you were going to be in contention for the cup, but you're not, is just stand pat. Like, don't panic. You want to make some moves. You want to alter the lineup. Take some time to think about it in the next few months, and do that at the draft or something, right?
Yeah, I would think that's probably because of their contracts. So, the number of big contracts they have. probably
They don't have any rentals, I don't think.
No.
If I was looking at their lineup, there's not many
Yeah.
rentals at all.
No, I think that's going to probably be their direction anyways.
Uh-huh.
You know, but you look at a team like Nashville, you would have thought Nashville after the summer they had, you would have thought they were being the contenders, and then they completely, blowing it up. How, and they're going,
New GM too.
Yeah, with Trotz coming in. I'm sure he's, well aware of what's going on. I'm sure.
Right.
David Poyle, he's, David's a classy guy, and I'm sure he's, they're in this loop together, and they, they see something, and, they're going to try and retool around a couple of the guys they got, but, maybe start drafting and see if, because they got a ton of draft picks now.
Yeah.
They've dropped a lot of salary, which is, obviously, which is good if you're going to, try and do that.
I hear you. Quickly, we'll let you go right after this, Rex. You look at the team you were coaching for the past few years, the New Jersey Devils. What's been your take on what they've done, getting Timo Meier there, the job Fitz is doing?
Fitz is doing a great job, and they've done a terrific job there. And we saw it coming. I saw it coming. This team was, they just needed to get some consistency in net, and if they got that, we would have been better last year if we had it. The first year was a little different. They were still really young. Last year, a lot of the guys were showing a lot of maturity. And we just didn't get goaltending. And this year they got some consistent goaltending with Vanacek right off the bat. Blackwood's been solid when he's come in, and they've got a great team now. They're fast, they're exciting, and adding Myers without really losing any significant pieces. Like, I thought I thought for sure you're trading for Meyer, you're losing Mercer,
right? You're
losing probably one of their top defenseman, Nemec, or I don't think they moved Hughes. Maybe they wouldn't have moved Nemec. But that's what I'm. If I'm San Jose, those were the guys I would be looking at. And and for Fitzy to be able to keep those guys and get Myers and still have Holtz as a asset, still have Nemec and Hughes, and the list goes on. I think he's done a terrific job. I mean, he got Schmidt and Dawes and net down, who are terrific young goalies. So he's got a lot of good things. That team's going to be built for a long time now. I think he's done a terrific job, and him and Danny McKinnon and the whole organization there have done good. And Lindy's done a terrific job with his assistants as well.
Yeah, I agree. I'm happy for Lindy too. I mean, it's amazing how in the beginning of the year they're saying fire Lindy in the stands there, and then all of a sudden, like, we love you, Lindy. So
it
was good stuff.
He's a wonderful person. He's a really good coach, wonderful person. I really for it. And Chris Taylor and I actually played with Ryan McGill, so I'm Ryan McGill. I don't know Burnett, but that's he's obviously, they've done a great job, and it's good to see.
I hear you. Well, Rex, thanks for joining us. Oh, quickly, I've been asking all our guests there. You got a Final Four for the playoffs you can give me? I know you're going to pick the Bruins.
Yeah, I think I got to think about the divisions here. I don't know how they all win.
I know, right?
Going to play out, but I still think Colorado's going to be there on the west side. I think Edmonton might have a chance. I don't know if they can get to the semis or not. I don't know if they can play.
Goaltending scares me.
That might be the only thing.
Yep.
On the East, the Bruins, the East is so hard. I mean, besides the Bruins, I don't know who could come out of there. It's, Carolina, should be able to. They got a heck of a team, but then you got New Jersey, you got the Rangers they added, loaded up. I mean, it's like crazy on the side how, and Tampa, Tampa's going to be there. Their Warriors are going to be there. So, it's going to be interesting. So I really can't even tell you. I'd have to look. I know, right? It's a crapshoot. I'd have to look at it really closely and see who could end up playing each other in the semis.
I hear you. I'll tell you one thing I was thinking, Rex, is because the East is so crazy and it's just going to be a gauntlet to go through. That team whoever comes out of West is going to be sitting there, I think, salivating like, this East team's going to be, whoever the East team is going to be pretty beat up. Like, they're going to need a short series. Whoever makes it out of the East is going to need a short series along the way just to stay physically ready, I would think. It's going to be a war.
The other team, I think Dallas has a shot too. Dallas.
I'm with you.
I think they made a couple neat little quiet moves here at the end, and I think that's good. It'll help depth, and I think they've got a pretty good team. They're deep as well. So that's another team that you see in Minnesota. Who's playing really good right now is Minnesota.
Yep.
They're starting to play
maybe
really
Billy
well.
has something up his sleeve today.
Really
You never know.
Yeah, you never know with Billy. Billy does a great job. I mean, he's awesome. He's got a lot of balls. I can tell you that. He's got a lot of jam, and he makes moves. He's not afraid to, and he's done a wonderful job there as well.
He GMs like he played, right?
Yeah, absolutely, he does. Great.
I hear you. Listen, Rex, have a good one, my friend. I hope to see you soon. We gotta grab a dinner in the North End someday. All right.
Sounds good, buddy. Cheers.
All right. That's Mark Recchi joining me here on the National Hockey Now Trade Deadline Frenzy. Always a pleasure to talk to him. Now he's been waiting patiently on deck here in the on deck circle. He's joining us now. I told you about him earlier. That's our up and comer here with the NYI Hockey Now, and that's Stefen Rosner. Stefen, how you doing, buddy?
Good, you?
Hey, hanging in, man. It's always nice when I can talk to Rex,
Oh yeah, I was enjoying the conversation, just listening in. Cool guy, it seems like. So
yeah, he's great, man. I was lucky enough, and I don't know if you got on before when we were talking there. When he came to Boston in 2009, I'd already gotten to know him, thankfully, through Kevin Stevens. Obviously, played together in Pittsburgh and all that, and so it's great. And he just kind of took me under his wing, and it'd always give me scoops, and it'd always be like, "Hey, keep an eye out for this. Keep an eye." It was great. So he was a good little inside guy to have on the team. But he's just a great guy, and he's so fun to talk hockey to, man. Like, I had the pleasure. I'll tell you, quick story here, Stefen. The year the Bruins were in the Cup during the Vancouver series, I got invited to. This is the night before Game 7. Okay, so he said, "Hey, get over here quick because I got Bergie coming over later." And he said, "Come on over. We'll shoot the breeze." And we just sat and we're watching the sunset in Vancouver and drinking some really nice wine and nice Italian meal. And he looks at me and he goes, "All right, I'm going to give you this story." And I'm like, "Okay." And he goes, "Win or lose, I'm done." And I was like, "Really?" And I was like, "I can run with that?" He goes, "Yep, print it." Wow. So, I finished my wine, and now I'm like, damn it, I wish I didn't have 6 wines there. So I raced back to my room, and I broke the story. It was great.
That's amazing.
It was one of my favorite moments in my career. But hey, let's get right into it because we're tight on time. And I apologize you waited there. The Islanders, they done or what?
It's very quiet, but that's Lou-esque. No one's really going to know. Anything that I've gotten or anything has never come from Lou's back pocket. I'd get shot probably. But they needed defensemen. That's where they're looking. That's where I've heard they've been looking. There's a couple of names out there. Kulikov in Anaheim seems like a pretty good fit. UFA. The problem is Lou doesn't like rentals. Now, to get a depth defenseman, I kind of think you might want to go the rental route because, again, you got guys coming to wins, Bolduc in the minors. So that's a guy that could definitely step in next year. I'm assuming they're going to re-sign Mayfield at this point because they didn't move him. I mean, Lou's been really good at retaining defensemen. He signed Pelican, Pulak long-term. Romanov and Dobson are on 3-year deals. So it's interesting. I thought Varlamov, I didn't think really that Lou was ever going to sell. They're in a playoff spot. It's very tough to say, hey, we're going to sell our assets. Now, could he have extensions in place for Varlamov and Mayfield? Probably. Right. Obviously, Varlamov, if he wants to come back, it's going to be the backup Sorokin. He's going to have to take a massive pay cut. He's making $5 million now on an expiring deal. You would have to think 2.5 at the most to bring him back. Again, the Islanders have to worry about Sorokin's next deal. They only got around, I think, $6.5 million to work with this summer, and they have a couple of UFAs of their own. So it's interesting. Scott Mayfield, too. I mean, this is a guy that could probably get $3.5 to $4 million as a top 2 pairing defenseman. He's playing bottom pairing, quote unquote, play right now, but he's averaging over 20 minutes for the first time in his career. Big body, penalty kill. I could see the Islanders bringing him back on like 2.5. Also, again, he's going to have to take a pay cut where he could get on the market, but he loves it here. He told me yesterday that this is where his wife's here. He's got married. He's established a home here. He wants to be here. Varlamov said the same thing after a game a couple of days ago. So it's interesting, but if the Islanders don't get a depth defenseman, I've heard they're done at the forward group. They got Engvall on Tuesday. They're dealing with injuries right now to Barzal, Wahlstrom, Clutterbuck, Pajot. As of now, Clutterbuck and Wahlstrom are probably done for the year. Barzal, it could be that he's back in a couple of weeks. Could be back that he's not back till training camp. Who knows on that? And Clutterbuck, he's been banged up all year. I'd be shocked if he's back this year. But, yeah, I think all in all, you look at the Horvat deal, obviously kind of Lou started the whole let's trade everybody before the deadline talk then. look at Horvat and Engvall, and you say that, okay, Lou did a solid job, but the return for Horvat, I mean, looking at it now, Vancouver already flipped that pick. You kind of traded Horvat for a cap dump in Beauvillier, and you signed him long-term and gave him his 8th year. And people are going to say it's an overpay. And Barzal got hurt, and they didn't get that much playing time together, but him and Horvat were dynamic together. It's the first time Barzal looked like a different animal because he was excited. He even said he's more excited and juiced up and ready to go and stuff because he's got a guy that could actually play with and skate with.
And create offense.
Yeah, it's something that he really hasn't had. And quite frankly, you look back, too, during the Tavares days, you're waiting for the Islanders to bring another guy to play with Tavares. Never happened. Barzal last year inks that extension that kicks in. Next year, you're like, okay, well, now's the time to go and get him someone. And they do. They lock him up. And obviously with injuries, Engvall move, I think, was more of Lou knowing the guy, having had him in Toronto when he was GM there, knowing that, okay, the depth guy could bring in, plays every position, and could fill in. And right now, Engvall's staying with Lee and Horvat on the top line, and he'll make his Islanders debut tomorrow. But, yeah, all in all, you knew the Islanders weren't going to sell because where they're on the standings. And as much as they hold the top wild card spot now, there's so many – this whole games in hand thing is kind of crazy, how there's teams 4 and 5 games still. At this point of the year, I mean, the Islanders could do what they need to do and put themselves in a great spot. These next 4 games are against Detroit, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Washington. They could really put themselves in a strong position, or they could go 2-2, and now it's pretty much leaving them in the hands of their opponents. But it's a crazy time right now. And Mark Martin was joking about this right after practice, but he goes, any time during the year where you're playing for the playoffs at this point, he goes, last year we didn't have that. We were out of it. We were done, and they were. The schedule, the COVID, everything was bad. So now this whole group is geared up, ready to go. The confidence is through the roof. They've been playing better hockey as of late, especially 2 coming behind wins against Pittsburgh. They got killed by Boston, but that was kind of a loss you did see coming. They lost Barzal in that game. You have 2 critical wins against the Jets. You do get a point against Minnesota. So this is an Islanders team that's doing the right things right now. They're getting back to their structure. And now it's about, again, these are the critical moments where you pay your top guys to produce. So for the Islanders' sake, they're hoping that they get the job done the next 4 games and put themselves in like a really, really strong spot.
Take a breath, my friend.
We're good. Yeah.
Wow.
Just everything. I'm ready to go off the show. See you guys later.
All right, he's out. That's it.
The wheels. You have all this in your head the whole entire time for days. I mean, we've been waiting for the deadline. It feels like nothing's going to happen today. There may be a couple of teams, but it's already done.
Listen. I just got I've been getting texts on keep an eye. I've had 3 people in the last hour tell me keep an eye on Vegas.
So I got told this morning to keep an eye on the Ducks. And again, they have a couple of UFA.
Well, look, I'm going to tell you this. Actually, Rex and I were talking about this off air a couple times. He's like, dude, how the Ducks not made moves right now? Like, if I was an NHL GM, I'm no pun intended, I'm plucking stuff right off their roster nonstop. I mean, it's so many, pretty much everybody except, the young guys, the young core there, Zegras and what's his name? They're all available. That whole team's basically available. And yet we've hardly seen anybody moved off that roster. And it's funny, you talked about Kulikov. A lot of guys I've talked, a lot of GMs, a lot of scouts. So yeah, he's getting a lot of buzz, but he's still there. He's still there. So interesting that happens. But back to what you were saying about Varlamov.
Yeah.
If you're Ken Holland, are you not trying to get a last minute deal and grab him right now from Lou? I mean, or would Lou do it? I guess would be the better question.
Well, the problem is Varlamov has a 16-team no trade clause, and it's believed that all of Canada is on it.
Even with Connor McDavid.
So my mindset is, I know from 2 sources last year, the Islanders tried to move Varlamov, and he didn't waive. I know there was something in talks with Toronto at some point, and Edmonton at some point, and Vegas, but Vegas figured it out last year. And he wouldn't waive. Now, last year, he had 1 more year remaining on his deal. So wherever he was going to go, he'd have to be there for another year. This year, though, if you said to Varlamov, listen, we have 18 games left on the schedule. We got to win every game at this point. You're probably only going to play 3 of those games because those were 3 back-to-back situations.
Right.
Go join a contender. And if you want to come back in the offseason, we'll have you if you're taking that pay cut. For him, I mean, if he's signing back with the Islanders, he's not starting. It's gonna be a situation where Sorokin's gonna get 60 games. That's what it's gonna have to be like. And Varlamov is not a backup in this league. He'd go and start for 5, 6, 7 teams right now. That's why I thought Seattle made the most sense. That's a team right now that's to me not a fake playoff team. They got the space, but the biggest issue for them is their goaltending. Both goaltenders under 900 save percentage, over 3 goals against. Martin Jones has been, Martin Jones. Grubauer has been one of the worst goalies in the league for the last 2 years. That contract is awful. You thought, okay, Seattle, all they need is a goaltender. Varlamov immediately starts them. That was a place Vegas before they got Quick. Would have made a lot of sense. Again, Canada, Edmonton, you would think would make a lot of sense. I know they have money, though, stuck up in the guy they got from Toronto this offseason, who's the backup now, Campbell. And I know Skinner's been good, but they just need a high caliber goalie. And Varlamov is a high caliber goalie. I mean, he's 2 years removed from having a ridiculous season in that shortened year, bad injuries last year, and this year he's been great. And again, it's tough when you're an everyday player, most starter for most of your career, and then last year they split, and now this year has pretty much been the Sorokin show. It has to be. Again, he's probably one of the most talented players in the game, and the Islanders need goalies that are going to bail them out. Not to say that Varlamov hasn't done that, but you've seen Sorokin play. The guy, I mean, there's no words to describe what he could do. He's masked so many issues, but yeah, the Islanders are playing much better now. Varlamov, if he wants to play and wants to move, I would say Seattle's got to be that team that goes hard at him. But again, you saw with what LA did. LA would have been a perfect fit. They went the cheaper option. Based on that trade, if you break it down, they got Korpisalo for a third-round pick. Now, Varlamov could easily get a second, if not a first. So they went the cheaper route. Again, I don't know if I agree with that. Korpisalo hasn't been great. You would think, okay, if I go and get – what do you say?
He's younger, though.
He's younger. Yeah, no, it's true. And again, maybe it's the fact that Lou said Varlamov's not available. I mean, Lou has said over time and time again that he loves this tandem. It's so important for Sorokin. They trust him. But then you hear sources that, okay, they tried to move Varlamov last year. So how much of that, is true? But I think if the Islanders do keep Varlamov, yes, he has importance. God forbid Sorokin goes down on this run, or they need a day off, whatever it is. But
bring up Stefen, like if they moved him, who would be the guy that comes up from Bridgeport?
Well, I personally think if they move him, they're bringing him back a backup from whatever team they're going to. And again, it's only 3 games, so it's not a big deal. Again, I could see if they don't bring a goalie back, Schneider. Again, it's just 3 games, and Sorokin has played, I think, back-to-backs. He's played both of back-to-backs twice this year and did it last year. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities that he would get one of these, play both of 2 of the 3 back-to-backs. So a backup goalie, and I've written about it before, it's not really a need. Yes, if you get one back, it's cool. Again, 3 games, but you don't need Varlamov on the roster right now. It's just, again, unless you're planning on splitting Sorokin and Varlamov, but again, you have to win all these games. You're putting your best guy out there. I wouldn't be shocked if he plays all 4 coming up and maybe gets a back-to-back or 2, depending really where the Islanders are at that point.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it's the Oilers part that would be tricky because Campbell, he's got a $5 million cap hit. He's got 4 more seasons left on that salary. And he's got a modified no trade clause. And then let's look up Skinner here.
I'm pretty sure they just signed him to an extension, I think.
They just signed Skinner. That's right. Let's see. You look at Stuart Skinner. Oh, no.
No?
Not yet.
No.
Right.
Well,
you were right. Yep. They just signed him an extension, and he's got 3 more years left at 2.6. Now, the Islanders could take that.
That's what I'm saying. If you bring Skinner back and you have Sorokin as the starter, Skinner as the backup, and with that extension, I mean, he's been pretty good. My whole thing is why.
And how the Oilers gonna fit Varlamov cap wise and Campbell. That's
their issue. They screwed themselves again. They've always needed a goalie, and it doesn't have to be a ridiculously high level goalie. Like I thought, John Gibson would have been perfect for them. He's a big. I know he struggled the last couple of years, but he's unreal. But why did Edmonton look at Campbell and say, okay, he didn't get it done in Toronto in the playoffs. Again, that was a tough series, but he never proved to be like that guy. Same way Kemper to me, yes, he won a cup. Kemper's not a Stanley. When you think of Stanley Cup winning goalies, Kemper's name will be there, but he's not to the level that those guys are. And you're seeing in DC how he's really inconsistent. Why did they think that Campbell was the right fit to get Edmonton over the hump? It just didn't make any sense. And Koskinen too. They signed Koskinen to an extension. Everyone's saying, first off, who is Koskinen?
Yeah.
And secondly, why put the faith in him and then battling him and Mike Smith? Again, Mike Smith was great. He almost got them there, but he has his flaws and he showed it. And he's gone now, and Koskinen's gone now. I don't know. I mean, I think Edmonton's just in a spot. They got defense, which is critical. That obviously helps mask goaltending. But yeah, you would think Varlamov would be a fit there, but they screwed themselves cap-wise. So, and again, I don't know if Varlamov would waive. That's the biggest thing to go to Canada. But again, Seattle needs a goalie. LA needed one. I think if Seattle was smart, they'd go and get one. If they truly want to go all in, or they just want to run the course and say, hey.
And then what do you bring back? Let me look him up here.
You bring back Jones. You bring back, I don't know.
What about Grubauer?
Yeah, does he have the problem is the term on his deal. I think I want to say Martin Jones is a pending unrestricted free agent. Don't quote me on that. We could look it up here, but
oh yeah, Grubauer's got tons of terms, so it'd be Jones.
And again, not that Martin Jones is the answer, but you let Martin Jones go in the offseason. Again, if you truly believe that you can get
Martin Jones has outplayed Grubauer this year, though.
Well, yeah, look at the stats. He's outplayed him. Yeah, Grubauer's been that bad.
Yeah,
Martin Jones isn't the Lord and Savior for anyone, and he's played better at times. He hasn't been completely irrelevant in goal, but that Seattle team needs a goaltender.
Yeah,
they got the pieces. I mean, Tolvanen being there.
I like this though, man. Nobody's talking about Seattle today. You might be onto something. They're eerily quiet, and they've got some cap space to use. So
and they're in a playoff spot. So you would think that they would want to bowl. I mean, they're third in the Pacific. They're tied in points.
They're that team, though, right, Stefen? That is definitely ahead of where they plan to be.
Yeah,
and you got to be careful when you're the GM that you don't get too excited and make a move that alters that path you're on. I can't think of a team off the top of my head, but you've seen what happened. Yeah,
well, Buffalo is doing it right now. I mean, Buffalo is going to be, if they're going to make the playoffs, it's going to be close, but they're 4 points out now with 4 games in hand over the Islanders. But that's one of those teams where it's like, listen, we're ahead of schedule. There's no point in doing anything risky. If we make the playoffs and then we get a playoff experience, amazing, fantastic. But if we don't, why are we going to risk giving up assets that we know that'll help us in the future for one run here? Again, that city needs playoff hockey, but I think they've already shown their fans, like, listen, we're right there. And another year for these young guys, it's going to be so beneficial.
I hear you. Well, listen, brother, I got to bring on our next guest, Alex, before we close it out here. I appreciate you taking the time, my man. We'll talk soon. Keep up the great work. And by the way, I told our viewers, listeners, however you're watching or listening to this, told them earlier you broke that Patrick Kane story. So congratulations.
Appreciate that.
I know you were working hard on that, and you nailed it. So good job, bud.
I appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
All right, Stefen Rosner from NYI Hockey Now of the National Hockey Now Network, and now we're going to go to my good friend from the Ice Guys. I used to co-host with him. I still go on Fridays, every Friday with him and Ian Cameron. He's joining me right now. Alex B. Smith. Alex, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you doing, man?
What, you got a Solar Bears jersey going?
I do. I'm wearing all IHL. I get 3 shows today. I'm wearing all IHL stuff, even though it's the NHL Trade Deadline. So.
I like it. I like it, brother. So what's going on? What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, here in Minnesota, of course, fighting the cold and snow like usual, but obviously people, the Wild fans are wondering what's going on. Obviously, this seemed like it's a disappointing year. Obviously, this is a team that everybody kind of thought would be, right at the top of at least the Western Conference and Central Division. But they're hanging in there. But the division got so weird in like 2 weeks, right? Like it seemed like Dallas and Winnipeg are just running off of everything. Colorado can't stay healthy. Wild are losing. Of course, we got the Tank Fest with Arizona, Chicago. Now all of a sudden it's kind of jumbled up. Dallas looks like crap, even though they've won the last 2 games, but they haven't been making things easy for themselves in the last 2 weeks. The Wild are coming back and hanging around the games, finding ways to win, living dangerously as well, playing a bunch of overtime. And you got Colorado getting healthy and just still being that quiet under the radar, which I don't understand how, as a defending Stanley Cup champion, you could be under the radar. But somehow Tampa Bay in recent years and Colorado now, they've mastered that. They're just like hiding in plain sight kind of thing. And I think now is the time we're going to start seeing the Avs take the movement. But of course, as a Hawks fan, it's so sad. Patrick Kane, no longer a Hawk. We knew it was going to happen. It just the way it happened, I think, is so weird too. He's going to get moved. Well, where's he going? He only wants to go to 2 places. Well, now they've all made deals, and now he goes to New York, and now the Hawks can't get anything for him because he has all the leverage. And it's just a very weird anticlimactic ending. And then what makes it crazier is how well he was playing the last few games of the Hawks when everybody's thinking, maybe he has this hip injury. We don't know what's going on with him. He disproved that. And then Hawks still only get, a conditional first, a conditional third. Some minor league guys we'll never hear of. It seems like we, could have gotten more out of that deal.
Let me ask you, are Hawks fans a little mad at Patrick Kane, thinking maybe he held them hostage and kind of screwed them in that regard? I
think some are. I'm not.
Players earn that right. He earned that right to have that no movement clause. I mean, that's just the way it is. Part of the game.
And it's something that, if you're a legend and you've been with the team long enough, it's something you should probably think about doing. Jonathan Quick, And see him floating around, and he goes to Columbus, and he's all mad, and apparently, some of his teammates are crying, and now all of a sudden he's going to be potentially facing against them now as a member of the Vegas Golden Knights if both those teams meet each other in the postseason. So Kane earned that right. He wanted to go wherever he wanted to go and make another run. And I don't think he's staying in New York. I honestly, truthfully believe if he does play again, he would come back to Chicago. But he wins another cup. Why would he even come back? I mean, he has 4 rings, all the accolades, future first ballot Hall of Famer. Maybe he just says, hey, it's been fun. But so I think Hawks fans are taking. I think if anything, I know me personally, I'm more mad about Max Domi getting moved. I thought he was playing great. He's earned an extension, and we flip him to get Anton Khudobin's contract. Which where has he been? Like, is he even in Texas in the AHL?
He's been in Texas.
Okay. I'm just like I see his name float around, and I'm like I know he was hurt, and then they were just kind of.
He's in the A.
So then maybe he makes his Hawks debut at some point because
you know what
the Hawks
if he makes the team, you're gonna love him. Anton Khudobin he's who was that crazy goalie that used to play with Edmonton and Philly?
Brizgalov.
He's the new age Brizgalov. He's a complete space shot, but he's hilarious. He's great.
I remember watching the video of the Dallas Stars when they won the West in the bubble. And they were showing him and stuff, and he seems like a real energetic
remember
character.
He did something that they trademarked. We're
not going effing home.
Yeah, we're still going. We ain't going.
They came back in that series. I think it was Calgary. They came back in that series, and that was the whole thing. And he got the belt for the game. I think they went to triple overtime, and that was the run. That's what really carried them into that cup final. So I mean, maybe something comes out of that. I mean, he's a guy who we've seen him bounce around before, and he's always played fairly well wherever he's been. But Max Domi, I think, really should have stuck around. I think he would have been a good fit in Chicago. I watched the interview with him and his dad, of course, and they were talking with some of the Hawks media members. They did a podcast. It's like in October, November. And it seemed like he, obviously with his dad, the history that he had and the player he was and playing with Original Six teams, Toronto and New York, he got that feel and the concept of playing with an Original Six franchise. And I think that's really where, I think that really proved to me, like, okay, if he can put the numbers up, which he did, that he should have stuck around. So maybe he comes back after. I don't know if Dallas is smart. They try to lock him up. I mean, God, they've got a powerhouse of a team. Even though they're struggling right now on paper, they look like the best in the West to me. So
I hear you. Well, let's get to all the trades we've seen. I don't know if this is as we expected. This is kind of a dud today, but still time. We'll see. Still about 2 hours left, but it's been a dud. But you're looking at the deals right now, and I wanted to bring you on, obviously, to get the gambling perspective.
Sure.
What are trades that have stood out to you that you were like, woo, now that team I'm going to have to really explore and look at in terms of betting, and maybe you can get in on it before Vegas, before the odds makers pick up on it, on the impact of a trade?
So it's interesting because obviously, naturally when you talk about trades, we always automatically go to futures. What are the odds now to win the conference? What are the odds to win the cup? Odds to make or miss the playoffs? But the biggest thing that really, and me and Ian talked about it on the Ice Guys yesterday, that really caught my eye was the Mike Yesema trade. I mean, I don't think that really moves the needle much as far as, wins and losses, but from a betting standpoint, he was a monster betting his, shots on goal and goals and points with San Jose because he was on the top line. Something catastrophic had to happen for Yesema to get top 6 minutes now at Tampa Bay as they're in the playoff push. This guy's probably going to be either hanging out in the press box most nights, or he'll be a third or fourth liner. So, we actually kind of lose some value in those little things with player props really taking, this big wave now in betting over the last season. So little things like that have kind of caught my eye more than saying, oh, well, Patrick Kane going to the New York Rangers. I mean, the Rangers were already third, best to win the East and like fifth best to win the Cup. Those odds aren't going to move too much. So there's not much value change in the conference and Cup odds. I think a lot of things now you have to look at where a guy's going to get slotted. Is Patrick Kane going to still be on the point with the New York Rangers? That makes a difference for him on the power play. Looking for his power play points or his shots on goal or, assist marks. Those are the little things I look at. Karel Vejmelka, a guy who's been a great bet for over saves props. If he were to get moved, which I don't think that's the case now at this point, but his name has been floating around as a goaltender to get moved. He's not going to face as much rubber if he goes to, a team that needs goaltending like a Buffalo. for example. They've got a better defense than Arizona. So those are the things that I really kind of have I've picked up on more is where are these new guys going to be slotted? A Sam Lafferty in Toronto, a guy who has been a good point producer for Chicago. Will he be able to still, score in that same kind of consistency with Toronto being in a reduced role? Will he be able to kind of grow and they slot him into a role that they weren't expecting to put him in? So those are the things that it makes it tough to bet on games. Right now, I have 2 bets, and one's a total with Seattle Columbus because Columbus right now with their goalie shifting around and the combination of Merzlikins and Michael Hutchinson. I mean, it seems like they can give up 7 goals a night on their own. Right. And then you look at, the draws have been huge. Regulation, everybody's playing for overtime, playing for points. That's really the thing to look at the next couple of days. You can't really bet on a side because these lineups haven't gelled yet. It's going to take 2 to 3 games. Even though these are the best players in the world, they got to get used to each other. There needs to be cohesiveness, especially with how critical these games are in March and April.
Yeah, look at Toronto. That's a perfect example, man. Them trying to get the chemistry. Recchi was talking about that earlier. One thing I look at too is I wonder what's the shift when you see teams at this time of year that have nothing to play for, and then you wonder, are they trying to tank for Bedard? How do you measure those teams? Are they still dangerous? Are they still quality underdogs, or do you just stay the hell away from them?
So yeah, you have to really pick and choose, and I like to comb through. I'm a schedule guy when it comes to betting games. I like to look at scheduling spots, 3 and 4 games, the 5 and 7s. I also like to look for, different things like, end of the year, guys that are winding down their careers and, are they going to get ready to retire? Those last home games, we've seen those parts. Ryan Miller kind of doing that little mini tour when he was with Anaheim, and I think he won 3 of his last 4 starts. Things like that are the spots that I look for with these teams that are just kind of playing out the string, or as Ian always like to say, playing for exercise. And there's a lot of those teams, especially now with the Bedard tanking, with teams like Arizona and Chicago. I mean, they're going to be so, large of underdogs that you could sprinkle a little bit of money on them. Yeah, plus 500. You should probably bet any NHL team at plus 500 because that's just way too big of a gap. There's no gap, even with as bad as a Chicago or Anaheim or Arizona looks at the end of this season, which will be bad. Right. No, they still have a puncher's chance, especially when they're playing these teams like a Boston. I talked about with Boston, the biggest deals for them will be, what are they doing in Providence? What guys do they have that are going to be playing more than likely with the big club in the last 10 games? Because seems like, they already had 100 points. What, the division's probably going to be wrapped up in like 2 more weeks. Guys. Yeah. They're going to rest a lot of guys. And rightfully so, especially now you're seeing Marchand hurt and all these different injuries popping up. They're not going to screw around with anything. So those little deals, the guys, those 3rd and 4th line guys that are flexible can move up to the 1st and 2nd line. So as I kind of, I'm almost contradicting myself. I said about like a Mikey Eyssimont or a Sam Lafferty, they won't get big time now, but last 2-3 games of the season, all of a sudden, hey, Austin Matthews is scratching, right. Lafferty's playing 1st line, or Stamkos is scratched and Eysimont's playing on the 2nd line. Now you got some value going to that bargain bin that Ian Cameron always talks about. Bet on a guy to get a goal at plus 350, over shots on goal at 2.5 at a cheap price. That's where you pick off the board.
And have you been making a little dough on Dmitry Orlov or what?
Yeah. I mean, although it hurt last night, I was on Buffalo plus 240. So I just kind of saw the writing on the wall. And that's the thing. It's like, there's not bet against spots on Boston right now.
There really isn't. They don't have that situational loss. They don't believe in situational loss.
Yeah. So if for them to win now, it almost proves to me like, wow, okay, this is really a team. It gave me a feel of how the Hawks were in 2010 when it was just like, okay, even when their spots like, man, they probably have a tough night, and then they just go out and just blow them out. And it's like, okay, like, it seems like they can only beat themselves at this point right now. Like that. And that gotta be a great feeling in that locker room, a great feeling for the fan base, certainly. And like I said, so now you don't have to make these big, even with like Edmonton, people freaking out about Edmonton not making big moves. Like, okay, Edmonton's in a spot now where they didn't need to make any big moves, and that's good. You want to be in that spot. Look at the Penguins and the Kings and the Hawks in different years. Even go back to like Detroit. They didn't make gigantic moves, moving around 5 players, changing around the entire top 6. If you need to do that at this time of the year, that means you are in a bad spot or you're rebuilding for the future. If you're a good team and in the playoffs right now, you don't need to upgrade your top 6. Your top 6 should have gotten you to the point where you needed to make small upgrades, and you're already rolling into the postseason right now. So, people kind of freak out about, like I said, like the day of the deadline is always a dud in most people's eyes. For me, it's not. I expected what we're seeing now. A lot of these depth players and AHL players move around, and they do move the needle at some point, even from a betting standpoint, because we might see these guys in the lineup the next few weeks before the postseason starts.
I hear you, brother. Well, listen, thanks for joining me, my friend. I guess
No problem.
what time we got? I'll probably be talking to you in about an hour and a half on the Ice Guys.
All right, wonderful. Sounds good.
All right. And by the way, it's good to have Gramco on board here too.
Yeah, I saw that. Very nice.
Yeah.
I was telling Robin about it as well, that you cut the promo stuff. Yeah, Gramco, great stuff. I always keep it with me. Helps with the morning sickness and helps me relax in the evening. So.
I hear you, brother. Well, listen, I'll talk to you in a bit. Always a pleasure, my friend. That's Alex B. Smith from the Ice Guys. I'm Jimmy Murphy. Thanks for joining us here on the National Hockey Now NHL Trade Deadline Frenzy. We'll talk to you soon.